Hey guys, thanks a million for listening this week. Just wanted to give you a very quick disclaimer. This week's podcast was our very first live podcast, which had its shares of absolute delights and challenges that we had to meet on the day. Very quick turnaround with very little information given. It all worked out incredibly well. The people who hosted and were there to help out were all gents and ladies. Everybody that we came across were nothing but wonderful to us, but we did have some very slight audio issues. So you may notice one of our guests is a little bit lower than the rest. We've tried to fix this in post, but it just makes things more awkward. So look, it is what it is, but we know what we're going to do for our second live podcast. But guys, hope you enjoy this. This was Dublin Comic Con 2022, our first ever live podcast. Give it a listen. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Okay, bye.
So, welcome everybody, one and all, to the Casual Gamecast, episode 72, coming at you live from Comic Con Dublin 2022. Thank you very much to the boys, and thank you very much. And please, if you're out there in the hall, don't be afraid to come in. It's all good. We love you. Come on in. Anyway, so I'm Phil Keogh. I like to do this as a it started off as a bit of a hobby over the pandemic. You know, we all went a bit mental. We needed something to do. Here we are. I'm joined, however, by one of my beautiful cohorts, the most beautiful man in the business, Ciaran Busby. Can we please give a small round of applause to Ciaran Busby?
Just a small. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that.
Just a small round of applause.
Just a small one. Just like that. Yeah. Thank you very much for the kind words, Phil. But of course, that honour goes to Edward Gibbon, a streamer in Ireland. So I can't take that. But, thank you very much.
Well, you're one of the prettiest men. Anyway, and if you have been to a convention in Ireland before, you may recognise the man to my direct right. That is right. It is Petso of All Cast Irish Gaming.
Thanks, John.
And we have in the crowd the other half of All Cast Irish Gaming, the Mignon. Welcome, Mignon. If we ask any questions to you guys and he answers, you know he's the plant. Okay, that's the main thing. Yeah. So guys, we did have a lovely presentation ready to go here. It went a bit nuts. I'm not going to put you through that in case there's any people with epilepsy in the crowd. We don't want to be responsible for any of that. Now, what is this podcast about? Today, well, first of all, I guess, before we even talk about today, what is Casual Gamecast? What is it that we do? We meet every week and we talk about games. We started off talking about just what are we playing, what are we doing this week, checking in with each other, and we've kind of grown over 2 years, and now we're a topic-based video game podcast. So if you have any interest in video games and a couple of guys talking about topics, and you even want to get involved and suggest some topics, you can find us at Casual Game Co. is our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us pretty much everywhere. We're on YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts, that's where you get it. Okay, now that spiel is done. So why are we here? We are here today to ask the question and just kind of discuss amongst ourselves and with you guys, who are the best superheroes in video games? Now, that sounds like an incredibly nerdy sentence in any other place in the world, but I am here amongst my kin, and I'm very happy to be here to ask that question. So, I'm going to first of all ask these beautiful gentlemen next to me. So, what I tend to do, as you're well aware, is I like to say, when I say blah, you say blah. So, Ciaran, when I say who are the best superheroes in video games, you say
Spider-Man.
Fair enough. I think that's going to be 50% of the conversation for most of them. But why Spider-Man?
I mean, like, you look at the most recent kind of release for Spider-Man, which was on PlayStation 5, Miles Morales, whatever. We've talked at length about it in the podcast, and it is an exceptional video game, not only in terms of the story and the heart that it brings, but also the performance and everything else. You know, it's a showcase of the PS5. But you look at that retrospectively, and you've also got one of the best hearts of a video game that I've ever seen in my life, really, on PS4, which was the Spider-Man game. And man, that entire game, I won't spoil it anyone in the audience or anything, but it just really makes you want to have a family That's actually what it tries to do. I'm like, as a 25-year-old man, that's not something I thought I'd ever say, let alone in front of an audience of tens of people.
Do you think that the devs and Insomniac, they were like working all those late nights, crunching hours, and they went, we really hope we make more families?
Yeah, it's all a big scheme, man.
Fantastic. What about you, man? What do you think about Spider-Man? I'm going to turn this way, just so I'm still looking at you guys, but I'm also looking at him, okay?
Spider-Man's good. He's not the best by far, but he's good. I did the story, the characters, the villains would definitely keep you glued to it. And the Miles Morales and everything like that came out. They're class. They're like some of the best games out in the last couple of years. So yeah, Spider-Man's up there, but I don't think he's the best.
All right, and who's your pick for the best then?
That's gonna be Batman.
See, this is the big one. And I'd be inclined to agree with you in every other shape and form, just apart from the media of video games.
Okay, explain.
Because I mean, like, okay, right, the Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight, which was the kind of downfall of that kind of great trend, was a fantastic game series, but just lacks the heart that Spider-Man has on the PlayStation.
I don't know. Arkham Asylum had a lot of heart, and it was so close, and everything was so. What's the word I'm trying to think of? When things are really close together and you can't breathe.
Claustrophobic.
It was very claustrophobic.
Much like our crowd.
And we got to know all the characters throughout the game as well. So I think it was very similar to. I think the new Spider-Man took a lot of little story.
Absolutely, I think it did take an awful lot of kind of inspiration from it and from the groundwork that it laid. But I think it just did it better.
Now,
I don't know.
See, here's the thing, right? So when we started talking about this, naturally you're going to filter down into your Spider-Men and your Batmen.
Okay.
Now, I think that it's going to be hard not to have those two guys in the conversation. And I think realistically, if you're going to say who has the most well-realised thing, it's hard not to have them in that conversation. But is it worthwhile, and this is going to be me being a pedantic shit, and say, is it worthwhile us taking in the history of these superheroes? So, like, for example, right, let me just throw this out there. Spider-Man, I guarantee you there's images here, you'd love them if you could see them. But Spider-Man started off on like the Atari, and then had PS1 games, whatever. Not the whole legacy hasn't been wonderful. If we're talking video games here, guys, we're talking video games here. So, yes, PS4, awesome, right? Yes, PS1, awesome. Not so much on everything else. But Batman suffers the same thing. So my question to you guys is, if you're talking who's the best realization in terms of video games, who has the cleanest record, I'm going to throw out there, has anybody here played Guardians of the Galaxy? It's on Game Pass at the minute. If you haven't, do. If you're into comic books, man, this game is phenomenal.
It hasn't got the history of Batman or Spider-Man.
It doesn't, and it doesn't, but it doesn't have any bad history. It has one video game, to my knowledge.
Okay, there's a loophole here.
Yeah! There we go. But before we kind of go into the ins and outs, right, I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to take the temperature of the room here, folks, okay? So don't get afraid. All right, don't get afraid. I'm just going to go out to you now. So I want to ask, and you can all shout. I'm not going to point to you or anything like that. But when I say best characters in video games, what would you say?
Ratchet and Clank.
Nice.
I mean, like, not a comic book, but damn, that's a good shout.
Is that anime or what is that? Yeah.
It's from a video game. It's Team Fortress 2.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm not a PC player, as you can see, but fantastic cosplay. Anything else? Anybody else have any favorites? Even stuff you grew up with? No.
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank. Hey, it's a fantastic game. It is.
I'll throw back Jack and Daxter to that as like the better duo.
You are a Jack and Daxter stan if ever there was one.
I am indeed, yeah.
But there is a long lineage with video games and comic books. You know, like as I said, Atari. You have the old, like here in the UK and Ireland, you had the old like ZX Spectrum games, and they were good for the time. But are we kind of narrowing down to well, what is the most well-realized thing today? And then if so, we're kind of talking Spider-Man, we're talking Batman, we're talking Guardians. Is that kind of what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's what I'd be saying, yeah.
Okay.
Most popular stuff.
So I think we have an untapped well here, folks. Right? A very rare opportunity where I have this man over here ready to go to bat and start a family for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I have this man over here ready to go to bat for Batman.
Dark Knight.
I formed a ring, ladies and gentlemen. If you look over here to my left, but no. Right, if you had to put it down in one sentence, why Spider-Man would trump Batman in this? Because they are the juggernauts of this industry in terms of video games.
So far.
One sentence, what would you say?
I'm going to say, and I've said it a lot already, heart.
Heart.
It's got that heart. Both Spider-Man on the PS4 and then Miles Morales on the PS5. The thing it does exceptionally well is make you feel emotions. And any form of art, let alone a video game, comic book, if they can do that to you, it's a success.
That's gas, actually, because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm talking, and I do this a lot, as you can tell, I have a podcast, but whenever I talk to people about video games, and whenever I talk to them about Spider-Man, I don't think we've ever talked about heart or families. You have a very interesting perspective on Spider-Man. It's always like, the swinging is amazing. New York City is so realised. The villains, the characters.
100%. That is absolutely like a huge part of it, and like one that you would critically, comment on a lot. But you have to imagine that like the narrative of that game, it just makes you actually. I cried at the end of that game, and like it's one of the only games that makes you cry at the end.
It does have some good punches.
You don't
in
cry
it,
playing Batman.
You don't?
You don't cry playing Batman. You feel good at the end of Batman.
I cried. I won't lie. I cried after a couple of those Riddler trophies.
Yeah, to be fair. Those Riddler trophies were rough.
So,
What's my one word?
I was just going to say, I understand why you said the heart thing and everything, because I asked you what separates it, and you're right. Like, Spider-Man by far does have the most heart in comparison to Batman and all the rest, but yes. What would you say that's going to put us over the top in one salient point for Batman?
Vengeance.
Say no more. We've been the Casual Gamecast. Good luck. But no, seriously.
I just think Batman's villains and stuff have a great backstory and a great history. So when you're going up against them and they've introduced all these storylines, you get addicted to the storytelling.
Okay.
And yeah, I would agree. There's more heart in Spider-Man, but there's more ass kicking in Batman.
Well, that is most important. Yeah, you're right. Let me just try and put this up. Is this going to freak out?
No,
We have something at least. Anyway.
Just your PowerPoint presentation.
Excuse you, just your PowerPoint presentation. I
He put 5 minutes into making that thing. 5 minutes.
I had a 3-hour bus journey, ladies and gentlemen, from Cork City at 7 a.m. this morning. I had my buddy's 30th birthday last night. It was a fun bus trip. That PowerPoint kept me sane. Anyway, so fair enough. We got vengeance. But I'm going to assume it's the full realization of the Batman thing that Arkham kind of brings around. Like, you feel like the goddamn Batman. Is that kind of
Yeah,
what?
it's pretty much, for me, it's always been about the villains. Like, the villains, I've read loads, I collect Batman comic books, so the villains for me always brings me back. Batman's always the same. It's the same storyline with his parents dying. It's the same, always with the Robin and all the rest of it. But the villains are always changed. Their origin stories changed. They're more interesting. They update them from the 60s and the 70s to make them more modern. So I always get addicted to that, and I love how Mark Hamill brought the Joker to life in those games.
Sure.
And all the other characters are just fantastic. Like, and the twist in Arkham City.
The depiction of the Joker, I think, in those games is probably one of the best
Yeah,
villains in a kind of comic book video game.
I think they kind of had a strong start, didn't they? Because, like, any of you guys like the Batman animated series from the 90s? Anyone? Yeah, we've got some fans in the house. Like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill on board from the beginning. Even before I played the goddamn game, I knew I was going to like it. Like, that's inspired. And Mark Hamill does some wonderful stuff. Like, he was allowed to, like, spread his wings a little bit in the cartoon. But, like, when they're like, oh no, we will literally computer generate whatever the fuck you want. It's like, he really did spread out, Hello! But, I think we can probably narrow down. When we're doing our final selections, I think Spider-Man is in the ring. I think Batman's in the ring. So, once again, just going to throw Guardians there. I'm just going to say it is fantastic because of how well realised the characters are. The gameplay is okay. It's fine. It'll get you through. But I didn't watch the Guardians of the Galaxy movies for any of the specific action. I watched it because there's 5 guys that hate each other and are getting on with it. And that's exactly what that video game is. And they cut each other to the bone constantly. It's so funny. But I did have a couple of, let's say, not so great selections that I was going to throw up on the thing, but I think we can all visualize them. Arguably good, the Deadpool video game for 360 and PS3.
Yeah, very good game.
They were good.
Yeah,
They're all right.
probably a well-realised thing as well. There's a lot of inside jokes, a lot of breaking the third wall.
Hack and slash type of game.
Yeah, Devil May Cry-ish or something, yeah. How about Hulk Ultimate Destruction on PS2? Anybody ever played that one?
Actually, never. No, that's a
The Hulk
bit of a
has
deep
game.
cut for me.
The Hulk has a game indeed. What were the other ones I had? Oh, of course, you have to talk about the Injustice series.
Oh yeah.
Yes, in fact,
Can we
quite.
park on that for a second, actually, right?
We can park there all you want, yeah.
Injustice. I brought my slip. Injustice. So, did anybody else here actually play those games? Because the premise of it is it's Mortal Kombat. This man knows. It's Mortal Kombat with superhero characters. Okay. How in the hell does that work? How can the Joker, right, a man who is a bit nuts but is a man,
Yeah.
box the Superman? You know, how does that work? You know, but of course they have that premise where there is a disease or a pill that they've all swallowed or whatever malarkey, and they're all on the same playing field. Can I just say,
Joker's crazy.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and this is why I was going to say it's inspired, because it's a silly premise, but it's just to get you in the door. And then when you have Superman and he's there battling it out with the Joker, obviously in a normal situation he would just like murder him. But because it is a situation where they're even, his craziness is a superpower. Do you know what I mean? Like it's toe to toe. And those games are fantastic. As somebody that plays a lot of fighting games, like it's up there. It's up there with your Tekkens. It's up there with your Mortal Kombats. You know?
I can break this for you. When the Joker uses his gadgets in the game,
Yeah.
has his gadgets taken the pills? They can hurt Superman.
No, but Superman has taken the pill.
I don't think he has. I think he's the big
Isn't
guy.
that what it is? But the pill makes them all. Sorry, is anybody else familiar about this? Are we just talking malarkey here? In Injustice, isn't there a thing that they're all on the same playing field? That's just kind of what
Yeah,
it is, isn't
but
it? Yeah.
the pill makes him Superman.
Yeah.
So
Batman's always prepared.
This is true.
He's trained to be a lethal weapon and he has no control. He has no fear.
He has the power of money.
Yeah.
Me too.
I don't mind that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm reverse Batman. I'm a secret billionaire.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh right. So you dress up as a bat normally. You're a billionaire at night.
just around the house. But yeah, like I think, like before we kind of wrestle it out. So I think we have 3 dead ringers for who's going to be named, in our humble opinion, the best superheroes in video games. We got your Spider-Mans, your Batmans, your Guardians of the Galaxy, and so on. We have those honorable mentions. But what is it exactly that makes for, and this is a general question, this is less about who's the best superhero, this is like a general superhero in video games question, because who better to ask? Like, you know, who better to ask than here at Comic Con? What is it that makes a good video game when it comes to superheroes? Like when it comes to the realization of the superhero and that power fantasy and all the rest. Like, what is it that makes a good one? What makes a bad one?
It's the same as cosplay at Comic Con. You want to become the character. You want to feel as strong as they are and go through a story arc of what they would go through in a movie or a comic book.
Right.
So I think it's all about being that character, being that person.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you there in a lot of things. You know, it's that escapism into the character and being able to kind of role play as them.
Yeah.
Which is one of the big reasons, I think. Yeah. I mean, like, there's no better representation of that. I mean, like, obviously, than Fortnite with with all the Marvel skins, you know.
Absolutely, like we all wanted to be Spider-Man with an AK-47. Like,
Yeah,
it makes
like,
complete
come on,
sense.
seriously.
Yeah, it writes itself. But I would like to once again ask the crowd, especially the provisional IRA that seem to be sitting here in the second row.
Is that what we're going for, lads? Oh, deadly. Okay.
How bad? What is it that you guys would think? Like, first of all, has there been any game that featured superheroes that really grabbed you? And what about it? Why?
Infamous Second Son.
Oh, Whopper.
Batman Arkham games are like the best games.
See?
Batman Arkham, yeah, absolutely.
Those 3 games, best game.
There's 4.
No. There's 3, and then there's their secret shame.
No, we don't talk about Origins, but Night was fantastic.
Yeah, but that's the third one.
Knight really just got that tank too long.
City's the best. City's the best one, yeah, by far. It's the story in City.
I think it's the one that threads the needle the best. But,
Yeah.
but Arkham Knight does look glorious. Like when you load it up and it's like raining and there's like, you know, shimmering different lights everywhere and you're flying around as Batman, or you get into that goddamn Batmobile. Like it looks phenomenal.
There's a couple of like parts of the game, like gameplay wise, which is a little bit like, oh, I'm not doing this again. But the story and everything in Arkham Knight is fantastic.
True.
Oh yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think this is what you've kind of stumbled into, what I think makes a fantastic superhero game. If you're playing a game, you have to have a purpose. And if you are doing that same purpose all the time, especially in an open world game where you could be spending 40, 50, 100 hours in it, it needs to kind of be variable. It needs to have, you need to be doing something different every so often. You need different characters. You can't be just Batman Joker for 40 hours. No matter how good those characters are, you can't just do that endlessly.
No, you need to tell Ubisoft that though, because
You do need to tell Ubisoft that. But Batman and Spider-Man have the two best villain rosters, I would argue. I don't think that's like a radical thought, but like.
But I can tell you why they're the best.
Why?
Because they're human. Like, so a lot of Super Spider-Man's villains are human in metal suits. A lot of Batman's villains are human, but they have something quirky, like a Bond villain has something quirky with them. And we soak up that, and we because we could be them if we had half our face blown off. And I think that's what it is.
This is true. Is this why Green Lantern kind of sucks as a character?
Yeah.
You know, like, don't get me wrong. And Superman.
as well.
You know, like, don't get me wrong. Fantastic idea. But then when you actually put it into implementation, it's kind of like, well, they can do anything, so does anything matter?
Yeah, what's their weakness? Like with Spider-Man, they always use his family, as you said.
That's relatable.
Yeah.
That's relatable, man.
But that's what I mean. It's relatable. But with Superman, it's like, well, we don't know who he is.
Well, just because he
wears
doesn't
glasses.
have a family.
Yeah, he wears glasses.
Like, that's his whole thing. He doesn't have a family.
Please.
Spider-Man has a bit of a family. That's why it's fun.
Please, no more pearls. No more pearls.
He's all right now, though. At the end of Hong Kong.
Anyway, we
Spoilers.
digress. We digress. Has there ever been a Green Lantern video game?
Yeah.
Ever?
I think so.
I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Sure, but I think there was.
I think we should get on it.
Though he's in Injustice.
That is true.
Yeah.
He kicked some ass in Injustice, to be fair. But I think so. We should kind of get to the point, because I know we're about halfway through the podcast now, so that means that we have discussed probably a lot of the heavy hitters, and if they haven't been mentioned now, they weren't that heavy to mention. So, and I'm going to ask you guys as well to help us out with this later on when the time comes. When it comes to Crown, who is the Casual Gamecast 2022 best superhero video game of all time, I'm going to go for a kind of a clapping. I want to hear when we say name, ye clap to whatever amount, and whoever gets the most, of course, is it. And if I have to clap myself, lads, I'll do it. But
Why is it Batman?
why is it Batman? Final arguments. Why is it Batman?
I'm just going to repeat myself. It's just better stories, better villains, darker setting, grittier setting. It's just more close to. I think when it's closer to real life, you can. Like, what are you laughing at?
See, I don't know how I ended up being the one defending Spider-Man, because I usually vote for Batman anyway. I was just trying to be the contrary.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but like I like Spider-Man as well. Like the new Spider-Man's really, really good. You know, the villains in that are fantastic as well. So it's a hard one. It's like I'd love to. Well, we've got Arkham Knights coming out next year, so I'm interested to see where they go with that one. I know it's not the same company, but
Yeah, quick question, right? Not to derail too much. Maybe you guys have an opinion on this as well. Arkham Knights, that's the one that's coming out with the four. This is like
Gotham Knights, yeah.
sidekick.
Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights,
sorry,
Gotham Knights. Yeah, I think it's like
That's
Nightwing.
like the sidekick game, isn't
Yeah.
it? With
Yeah.
Robin and Red Hood and
Yeah.
all the rest. And then what's the other one? The Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Which looks great.
That one looks a lot more interesting to me, to be honest. But what about you, and then what about you? What are we more excited about? Are we more excited about Gotham Knights, or are we more excited about the villainous one?
Yeah, I
Suicide
think I'm.
Squad.
Yeah,
It
I
does.
think I'm agreeing with you, sir.
I'm going Gotham Knights because I'm a DC fanboy when it comes to Batman. And
Arkham Knights is going to be the same story, same villains again.
don't you ever say
Whereas Suicide Squad would be, you are the villain, he's fighting the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point from our
Yeah.
friend over here in the first row.
But you're
is-
gonna have the how can they fight Superman problem, and it's gonna be a load of plot holes. That's what I think.
Maybe they won't fight Superman.
You know, we'll make it like an evil Superman, that same hero, not Superman. That could be good as
Bizarro.
a kind of a bizarro situation.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Well, they do have a shark man on their side.
They do. King Shark, isn't it?
Superman doesn't have a shark man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sylvester
King Shark's good.
Stallone. Come on.
How much you get paid for that?
Absolutely. Did anybody here, just to derail this podcast? I'm derailing my own podcast.
You're derailing the derail. We're like completely off the tracks.
Shut up.
There was tracks.
The Suicide Squad movies, right? Let's not talk about the first one too much. We've lost this altogether. But the second one that came out. Any fans in the audience? Yeah?
Absolutely.
What was it that made the second one so good in comparison to the first one? Because I think that same argument applies to the games. Why is the second one just miles better? They weren't trying to be serious.
Yeah, the series in the first one didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dark tones
They went Christopher Nolan. They went Christopher Nolan when they should have went James Gunn kind of thing. It was the directing.
James Gunn.
Yeah.
You know, he made it better. He took the concept, he made it like funnier.
Yeah.
He made it less serious.
The
You know, the cinematography was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought the villain was actually, you know, perfect villain for that kind of movie. So
yeah.
it was all around. It was the best DC movie in all time.
The editing in the first one was awful. The music they picked, like you see like the characters one after another, and it's like a different song playing for each one.
Yeah,
And it's just
yeah.
like no.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah, it's like every '90s theme they could think of, they put in it.
Yeah. I don't know. Once I heard Fortunate Son, I was kind of checked out. But yeah, no, and this I think it applies to video games as well. Is knowing your property is a massive thing.
Yeah.
Like what you said earlier rings very true to me. Is you said somebody needs to tell Ubisoft you can't do the same thing for 100 hours.
Yeah.
They tried doing that with many superhero video games. Like money come to my mind from the PS2 era, for example. But the second you go, no, hold on, let's make a Guardians game. This is about 4 assholes that hate each other. Yeah, we'll put some, combat in here. We'll keep things interesting, put some set pieces in here. But 90% of the reason you're playing it and enjoying it is because these 5 assholes hate each other. And it's just, it's palpable how much effort they put into that aspect, knowing that's what's good about them, And just like the Suicide Squad, in Spider-Man, they honed in on obviously the momentum, the swinging, the city, the villains, the family. I know that's a very sore point for you, but the family and
Do you have something you need to tell us?
Not anymore. My girlfriend just joined the audience, so
he's gonna be a dad, ladies and gentlemen. Woo!
You're getting engaged.
But,
not yet.
but much. I'm going to steer this away for your own sake. But much like Spider-Man, Batman does the same thing. It knows its character. It knows he's a broody weirdo. It knows that it's about feeling like a badass, feeling like you have no limitations. You can go into any situation. You can figure it out. Whether it's through detective mode, whether it's through combat, whether it's just through some weird gadget that for some reason Alfred's able to pitchcock across half the city over to you. They know what they were doing when they went in there, and it shows.
I give Batman a very good point. I mean, it's whenever you kind of get a call back in a video game where you're like, oh, I really want to play that game again. So I've been recently playing Horizon through the new one, what's Forbidden West, whatever it's called.
Forbidden West, yep.
And any time I put on the scanner, right, it's just like it makes me feel like I want to play detective mode again. I want to play Batman again because it's such a good game. And
That was great in Arkham Knight. The detective mode was much better in Arkham Knight.
yeah.
The first 2 was a bit.
I actually can't even remember Arkham Knight because I think I just burnt out of it towards the end.
No families.
Yeah, no family, man. Come on, man. It's all about the
But he
family.
starts off with no family.
What do you mean?
Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he starts off with a family, and we've watched them die several times now.
So you only like it when they die at the end of the game.
Oh, you just spoiled it there. Come on. Can't be doing
We
that.
take no responsibility for anybody playing through Spider-Man at this moment in time. But yeah, so this is why I am kind of going to begrudgingly take Guardians out of the ring for the best,
was
because
that even
I
in the
don't
ring?
feel like we have enough people here that played it in order to back me up. We can't take Batman and Spider-Man off of the table if the argument is just me shouting sporadically about how awesome, Rocket Raccoon is at taking the piss out of Peter Quill. You can take my word for it, but you've had to see.
I am looking forward to play that game as well, just on the off chance, because I have heard that it's got Mass Effect influences or something like that.
It's super Mass Effect-y,
So
man.
as a huge die-hard Mass Effect fan, with tattoos to back it and everything, I will
Here
definitely
it
play
comes,
that.
here it comes.
Yeah.
I'm putting on my homework glasses.
What homework glass? What are you talking about?
I don't know if we have anybody here in the room that has ever listened to the cast before, but our man here, Ciaran Busby, is a stan for Mass Effect.
I will
a particular
represent,
character
yeah.
in particular, and at any opportunity, even here at a Comic Con, he's still bringing up this character and this game.
What
He
character?
cannot be stopped.
What character?
Well, I mean, like Miranda Lawson is just like the pinnacle of characterization.
Your partner who is in the crowd here somewhere. Hello. Got you a cup to that effect. or
Yes,
something,
yes,
didn't it?
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Currently romancing Miranda Lawson. Drink it every day.
And that is true romance, ladies and gentlemen. But to that end, it seems like it's a 2-horse race. Okay.
Is there any other superhero games that you would throw like better than Batman and Superman or Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, sorry.
Avengers is off the table.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually I'm surprised we forgot to mention it. It's
Bad. Nobody needs to talk
On
about that.
paper, how could that fail? Tell us why. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Hot take.
But it's fine. It's true. It's true. Like on paper, like we saw an era, right, where, and this is very poignant here of all places in Comic Con. Like there was a time I remember being a child, and you were so uncool if you were like into Spider-Man or Superman or Batman or comics or whatever. Like the animated series, I think, were like the exceptions.
Yeah.
But like if you had a comic book, you're like, dork or whatever it was, bad, terrible names.
I'm still
No.
uncool.
I was never cool to begin with. But we've kind of transitioned into that place where it's acceptable, and not only is it acceptable, but it's cool, as you all know. And we got those cool movie franchises out of it. Like, and I don't care. I'm not the biggest like comic book reader, but I love the characters. But these movies, man, like nobody can deny it. Like they threaded the needle of like 30 movies to end up with a good finale. Like that in itself was an accomplishment. But to that end, do we feel like, and I'm going on this man's tangent here, but do we feel like the Avengers video game could pretty much have never worked? Even if the gameplay was good,
I do
because
think-
you had those Wish Tony Starks and you had those like, AliExpress Iron Men.
It was, maybe if it came out maybe at 5 or 6 years after the entire Infinity Saga or whatever,
Sure.
it could potentially have had legs. But those characters, they almost look like Wish versions of the actual like characters in the films anyway. So like either go completely different and come up with your own characterization, or just get away from that, or like go
Yeah.
exactly for that.
The problem as well is that the Avengers have to go against armies of people. So it's not a particular villain.
Yeah.
It's where you can
Yeah.
get to know him and go through his own kind of story arc and everything. It's just like waves of soldiers or waves
Yeah.
of aliens or waves
But it
of
could
machines.
be. Like, it could be. Like, why couldn't it be, I don't know, Marduk or some weird pull where it's just like, he's got like legions of guys you can fight, but you are interacting with this dude, I don't know.
I mean, they have got Taskmaster. I think in like the first like half an hour to an hour or whatever, like you play as Black Widow going off against Taskmaster, and like there's some quite good bits to it. But another big part of it was the fact that they paid for nearly every new character that was coming into it. Like,
Yeah,
it's just a separate battle pass for each one and everything. It's just
And I just
doesn't make
once
sense.
again bring up how good Guardians is, because if you
He's selling copies right now, guys. Right outside.
It's on
I
commission.
actually have them right here. They're going. But no, like if you saw, Avengers video game couldn't fail. Square Enix is publishing it or whatever. Great, there's money behind this project. Cool, we're going to get a good game, ladies and gentlemen, and we didn't. If that let you down, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I swear to God, it's super high production level. They get the characters. It's a fun game, and Square Enix didn't mess it up.
I feel like you get a euro every time you say it.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy.
He'll be Batman by the end of this. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is just me trying to pull back a little bit of faith. But, okay, right, I think let's go, we've about 10-15 minutes left, so how about we let you guys duke it out, and I'm going to come in as a kind of a third party. I already have my opinion on whether, by the way, we're back to this again, guys, Spider-Man or Batman, right? This is kind of how we all expected this to happen. If you have any last minute shout outs, now is the time.
Kind of like both.
But
So do I. I don't want to pick one or the other. Good, can't we have both?
But yeah, we can live in harmony, but somebody has to live on top. That's the thing. So
Damn capitalist.
So let's just agree that Batman's the best, but Spider-Man's good.
I don't know, I'm not ready for that. So what I'm going to propose, right, is maybe that's my opinion, maybe it's not. But I am here as a neutral third party. I will let you know, I know myself what I would pick right now. But I want to give you guys, and potentially the crowd, if they want, an opportunity to convince me who is the better video game protagonist, who has the better series, just all in total, what character has the best video games? Batman or Spider-Man? Everyone here, the provisional IRA all say Batman. They like his mask.
Spider-Man's up there.
Spider-Man beats. I actually do think, even though I would prefer Batman to win, I do think Spider-Man beats
I
out
come into the
Batman.
argument saying that.
But honestly, he does. I mean, like, look, you got Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales, right? Whatever. That aside, you've also got Spider-Man 2 in the PS2, which came before Arkham, which was definitely
The fighting system from
a leg ground.
the fighting system from that is in Arkham.
Yeah.
It's completely ripped from that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The fighting system's completely ripped from Spider-Man in 2004.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you know, when you're saying, oh, Batman's better because Spider-Man's, you know, the better one.
Yeah, but it's Batman, so it wins.
No, it's an interesting take, right? So, like, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up with a PS2. I grew up very much into PS2. I had a PS1 and whatever before that. But, like, PS2 was really, like, when I hit my gaming stride. So that's when I really got cool, you know? PS2, baby. But the Spider-Man 2 PS2 game, Spider-Man 1 PS2 game was pretty crap, if I'm honest. But the Spider-Man 2 PS2 game was baller. It was sick. Like, it truly was.
That kind of, like, looking back at it now, and I haven't actually gone back to it, but it kind of seemed like a next-gen game on PS2 with a lot of the stuff they were doing.
Yeah. How is it doing this? Yeah, and now when you go back, if you go back now, ladies and gentlemen, my God, you're going to really be put up against it. Your love will be tested, trust me. But, like, we can only rescue so many children's balloons before it starts wearing a bit thin.
Yeah.
But the
loved
actual,
it.
the actual New York City and being able to swing, and what really impressed me back then, and still impresses me today, and it impresses me even more that some game companies forget to implement this today, is when you are Spider-Man,
Yep.
when you are in a field, and you do this, nothing should happen.
It does happen in Spider-Man PS4 and PS5.
Exactly. But the first time it happened was on PS2.
Come on.
But what I mean is, I'm standing up for Spider-Man here.
Oh,
you
sorry.
doofus.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm not
I'm
listening
saying
properly.
that if there's nothing to swing from, he can't swing, and it was real, like, one-to-one swinging.
Yeah.
Because in the first game on PS2, like, here's a quick demonstration. I step out, I'm out on the, in between two buildings.
Thank God we
There's
have this
nothing
on
but clouds up here. I go, and I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this until I get to the thing.
It happens in Marvel's Avengers, I think, quite a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why Fortnite has better swinging animations.
How disgraceful is it that Fortnite has a better swinging animation than an Avengers game?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's point to point, so you actually have to, like, aim your swinger or whatever like that.
As it should be.
And
Yeah.
Wonder Woman swings off lightning, so maybe he's just doing the same thing.
Why have we never gotten a really good Wonder Woman game?
It's coming. And she's going to have the Nemesis system in it.
I would love a Wonder Woman game.
I think it is actually confirmed to come, isn't it? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's behind that?
No idea.
No idea.
Probably Rocksteady or something. I think
They
most
said the
of them-
Nemesis system from what's that?
Resident Evil.
Shadow Mordor.
Oh, right.
They're doing that Nemesis system.
Am I really dumb? Who is Wonder Woman's back catalogue that you would put into a Nemesis system? You've got Hades, or not Hades, Sparta,
No, so when you fight a
Who's that
regular guy, he'll come back.
Cheetah.
Gee,
That'd be cool,
Right.
actually. I've been hunted down, but you.
So we've got Sparta and Cheetah. We've got 30 more seats to fill here, ladies.
Well, that's the thing. So if they bring the Nemesis system in, you'll fight a regular guy. He'll get injured, and he'll come back with his injury as a villain, and you'll be making villains as you're playing the game. That's what it looks like they're trying to do. So, well, from the little bit we've seen or heard.
Sounds wonderful to me, but I think Ciaran has been sitting on his laurels here when he should be telling us about Spider-Man and why he should win.
Oh yeah, sorry, we went off on
Well, what am I doing with Spider-Man? I've fought that enough. I think it stands for itself.
Okay. I will say that I played through Spider-Man PS4 when it came out. Platinum the hell out of it because it was super easy to do.
Yeah, it's quite an easy button. That's also why it's great. I mean, like,
Yeah.
look, if you're talking about platinums, God, Arkham, worst one for that.
I've got 3, right? I've got Spider-Man because when I finished the game I was 98% complete, and it was like, we have a gorilla joining us, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if anybody has any bananas. This is the man to show them to. But I had 90% or 98% of the platinum, so I just got the rest of it in an evening. Done. Second one, Tekken 7. Again, I had everything but one easy achievement, and I went, okay, I'll do this now. Oh, great, done. And Ratchet and Clank. Back to our friend who has left us now, but Ratchet and Clank, the latest one, it just
very
unlocks
easy.
as you go. But
I think I've got 15 or 16, only got the Xbox or the PlayStation 2 years ago now at this stage. 70, 80,000 gamers go just flexing a bit there.
oh, know the women here, they're tearing down the doors at our young Ciaran and his platinum score. But yeah, no, like I think Spider-Man it speaks for itself. Batman, without just saying, yeah, he's the one. Give me a proper argument.
Well,
Why?
I just see there's too many. These two characters have a lot in common in the sense that their whole arcs and stuff like that are very, very similar.
Very similar.
They have a lot of gadgets and stuff. Like the new Spider-Man uses a lot more gadgets and stuff. The fighting systems are the same. You know, it comes down to me, and I've said it already, is the villains. The villains are just so much more interesting. But I love Dr. Octopus, and there's a couple there that shine out, like especially in the new Spider-Man. But the Joker, you know, Two-Face, Penguin, having a whole rogues gallery available to interact with was just sold it for me.
Do you know why I think the Rogues Gallery? Like I am a Batman guy when it comes to the villains. Okay, like I think that's not a huge swing. I think a lot of people would probably say, but they would still admit that Spider-Man one is pretty strong too. But in terms of the implementation in the video games, like the Batman villain catalog, it wasn't just like my problem with Spider-Man is it's New York, so they can't really do much with it. You know, like
Apart from recreated nearly like 1-to-1.
But what I'm saying, Ciaran, is they can't mess it up too much. You know, because it's kind of like there's creative liberty there. They have to get permissions for buildings and all this kind of crack. However, with Gotham, and remember, was it Gotham Knights or no the Dark?
Gotham City. We got him Arkham Knight. Yeah.
Arkham Knight. In Arkham Knight, there's a point where you have to fight Poison Ivy. And then she like destroys Arkham or she destroys Gotham pretty much. Like a huge root comes up and just like a whole level changes, the lighting changes, like everything. Like it's very personable. Like when you're up against the Riddler, you wouldn't even need to see him. You would just need to look at the walls and like, wow, I'm fighting the Riddler. The Catwoman, you know, all the rest. Like their personality bleeds out of the character.
Yeah, and it shows in the world. Yeah. Where I see what you're saying. Yeah, in New York the villains are just there.
Yeah.
In Gotham the villains are very much a part of Gotham.
Yeah, and it almost feels like, you know that whole duality thing about Batman? Like, do you know that thing like you can't live without me and I can't live without you thing between him and Joker? It really seems like Gotham is kind of the third person in that relationship. Yeah. You know, whereas like Gotham wants nothing more than to thrive, but these villains are keeping it down, but Batman's here to sort it out. But it kind of seems like those three things can't exist one without the other, because at the end of the day, if Batman wasn't kicking Joker's ass in Gotham, it would just be another city. You know, like, but all of its character seems to come from its villains and from the weirdo that's jumping around as a bat.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
So we all agree.
So have we come to it? Have we come to the point? Have we come to the point of trying to crown, let's say, the prestigious Casual Gamecast 2022 Comic Con, who is the best superhero in video games? Have we come to that point?
I think we've come to it. I think we need to do a round of applause vote to see who it is.
If that is in fact what we're doing. Hello! If that is in fact what we're doing, I just want to give one last put across as to where I kind of feel on it, right? So I think you're kind of on defense. You started off with Spider-Man, but you kind of seem like you're on defense.
But see, I was just proposing Spider-Man as an entrance, and then I was kind of like, I agree with Batman. Like, I think Batman's the better one. But,
and you, of course, are an Aquaman stan. So.
Yeah, I love Aquaman.
Yeah.
My first game.
So we kind of got two Batman here. I personally love Spider-Man as a character. I absolutely adore him as a video game character. However, for the reasons we mentioned here, the fact that the gameplay and the environment and the rogues gallery and all the missions and whatever are so fleshed out around all of the villains, yet alone the kind of, like, you know, voyeurism of becoming Batman or whatever that those games actually provide, like, it gives it that extra element that I genuinely kind of go like, wow, this, in terms of you've crafted a video game world for me to live in. For Spider-Man, I'm hanging out in New York. For Batman, I am Batman. Yeah. You know, that's kind of what it is for me. So yeah, I'm a Batman person myself. But I want to ask you guys, right, very quickly, and all I want is one of these. That's all. If you don't do it, I'll do it. If I was to ask you one or the other, I want you to please clap for whichever one you prefer. Okay?
Or both.
Or both if you want. Yeah. Whichever one's louder wins. So, you know, if you're on the fence, just clap both times. If I can get a round of applause for who thinks Spider-Man is the better video game character. Are there any? We got a few in the back row. I love to see it. I love to see it. And if I was to ask the same thing and say, Batman, best video game character, is there a round of applause? Woo! And there we have it. There we have it, folks. Spider-Man. It was an upturn nobody expected. But no, it's Batman. It's clearly Batman. And I think we all kind of knew coming into this. He's on the goddamn panel room display thing. He's the icon of comic books in general. And does that mean it would have been the best video game? No. But Rocksteady, the team behind it, they've done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work to make that possibly the best, superhero video game. But also, if your game has punching in it, they're looking at and robbing pretty much Arkham, So yeah, it's Batman. It's Batman, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are... No, please, by all means. We have 5 minutes left, right? So what I kind of wanted to do was we're going to start tearing down because I'm not sure who's on next. We're probably here. This man, ladies and gentlemen, what's your name? Mike Capizzola. Okay, a really quick round of applause for Mike Capizzola. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm sure it's brilliant. Now, exactly, he has to set up, so we're just going to ask very quickly, were you happy with what we did here today? This is, anybody here, by the way, put your hand up if it's your first convention.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
So this is as much a new experience as for us as it was for you. Not for this guy and this guy, but for me anyway. But if you have any feedback, if you'd like to get involved, if you'd like to listen to our podcast, you can find... I put it up here, but this projector is not working with us today, folks. But you can find us, Casual Gamecast, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on @CasualGameCo. Do let us know if you enjoyed the show. Do let us know if you didn't agree with us. And by all means, fire out there to our other podcast representatives that weren't here today, asking them, what the hell? Why couldn't you make it down? For God's sake. But can I first of all just say thank you so much to the people that were with me today. We have, of course, Ciaran Busby. Ciaran, can we get a quick round of applause for Ciaran?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very fancy one. Yeah, perfect. Now, Ciaran, please tell the lovely ladies and gentlemen where you might be found.
Yes, you can find me on all socials and everything at Buzz_the TTV. As the name would imply, I do a bit of streaming and the like. And might give a wee cheeky plug to Legion Arena GG, which is an esports and gaming company that we're set up in Ireland. And you can, have a bit of esports and win a bit of money every week. Check it out at legionarena.gg.
It's flawless.
Here's your check.
He also was part of Legion, so get another pick in there.
Anywho, also, can we please get a very small and very polite and very British...
I'm not British.
No, he's not. I just like doing this. Round of applause for
One hand clap.
Petso of All Cast Irish Gamers.
Thank you.
Woo! And our man Mignon from All Cast Irish Gamers has been manning the video diligently. Love to see it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can check us out, All Cast Irish Gamers. We usually go to a lot of events. We host Gamerfest and other events around Ireland. So you have probably seen us in bright green suits and stuff like that usually, but we're casual today for the casual game.
And I love you for it. I've been Phil Keogh. He's been Petso. He's been Buzz. Thank you. You've all been wonderful. And a round of applause for you. Enjoy Comic Con. Check us out at Casual Game Co. Take care.